Dare we open Pandora's mystic box?
To every generation, a slayer is born, except this time there were 6.
This is the dimension of imagination. You are entering the mystic zone.
Do you ladies see that aura? Something wonderful this way comes.
Welcome to the Mystic Order Podcast. I'm Mary. I'm today's hostess. Wait, are we supposed to say that now?
Moderator, you can be whatever, Mary.
Isn't that a cupcake you get at Walmart?
I'm today's Twinkie, and I'm going to let my fellow mystics introduce themselves.
I am the queen.
I'm Marian, the dog whisperer.
I'm Margie, the illuminator.
And I'm Joanne, the mystic defender.
So we've all had a little break because there was a technical problem with last month's podcast.
Little technical difficulty.
So if you miss November, it's because it's not there.
And if you would like, we'll go ahead and air it. It's about 50 minutes of silence, so you could use it to meditate. So let's go around and talk about the things we talk about as mystics to begin. Some of us have had weeks that were mystic. Let's see, Margie, will you tell us about your week that was mystic?
Yes, I have new clothing arriving every day from Canada.
With your artwork on it.
With my artwork on it. It's inspired by my original artwork, and I have all kinds of good things like scarves and jackets and dresses. That's my mystic, getting these treats every few days. Left by the U.S. mail on my back porch.
And y'all, they're fabulous. If you hadn't seen pictures of them we've posted some pictures of them with the lovely Marian modeling. But there's everything from her photographs, like of pitcher plants and fungi.
Oh, I should say one of my geology friends said, "Is that an something geode?" And I went, I think it is.
Of course it is. It's an
But I'm only the artist.
No, I took a picture of that in the Scottish Museum in Edinburgh. They had it said a weird rock.
So that means that anybody that buys your clothes can walk around in them and have a day that is mystic.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, let's see, Joanne, what about your mystic week?
Well, my mystic week was a high. I got most of my Christmas shopping done.
Oh, my God.
I know.
Where did you go to do that? The Amazon?
That was a little here, a little there. But the reason was I thought I would be going to Austria. Darn it, Austria closed its borders because of the COVID, and now especially because of the Omicron.
You can get there through the Alps if you're snaky.
I can, but I have a son that is in Austria at the beneficence of the Austrian government, and if I screw it up for him, he might be home with me without the babies. So.
Oh, let's not do that then.
So we are going to be good, and we're going to wait patiently, and then we're going to stamp our little foot and demand that the Austrian government allow us in.
And not to mention, you probably don't want to track that Omicron variant through pick it up at the airport and bring it to your grandbabies.
Actually,
I mean, that's an issue.
The Europe is full of the Omicron. Full of it. They think even that it may have gone from Europe to South Africa and not vice versa. So, yes, we're all being patient, and thank you for FaceTime so I can see my grandbabies kind of in person, but they all think that I'm only 3 inches tall.
Yeah, but you are only 3 inches tall.
She's at least 4 or 5 inches tall.
She is a munchkin, and they are not allowed to be more than a foot tall.
Okay. Gail's a little bit taller than Joanne, but not much.
I'm much taller.
Okay, much.
An inch, I think.
An inch. That's a lot when you're only 3 inches tall. Well, I'm sorry that your mystic week has been fouled by this dadgum COVID virus.
We shall survive this too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we shall. I mystically can tell that Marian had a mystic week. I wonder what Marian's mystic week was.
I suppose the mystic thing in my week was that we finally got the opium bed assembled. It's put together like a puzzle.
And who figured out the opium bed?
John David and Poe. Poe came and spent 1 or 2 weeks in Auburn.
Is that a mystic person?
Yes.
Or an opium person?
Poe is a mystic person and also one of the 2 people who gave us the opium bed. And I wasn't strong enough to help John David assemble it. It's heavy. Every piece of it is heavy. And it's a puzzle. Mm-hmm. No nails, no nothing. You have to fit the pieces together. And so the three of us got out there, and mainly them, with a little help from me, got it assembled. So now it's up with pillows and a hookah.
Oh, I think that would be a wonderful place to have a podcast.
I think so too.
Or a picture shoot.
Definitely podcast from the opium bed.
Definitely
I
a
love it.
picture shoot. We would have to be kind of still once we got in it, because I'm not convinced it's not going to cave in on our heads. We might want to wear helmets.
But what a wonderful way to go. She died.
Hard hats.
Being
The
caressed-
opium
being
hard
caressed.
bed hard hat.
There you go.
Would you design that for us, Margie? Okay, thank you.
I did see a picture of it on your personal Facebook, so it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and of course, her dogs are all climbing around in it with her very handsome son, John David.
We introduced the dogs to it this past week and got some photos of John David and the dogs in the opium bed. So that was a fun day.
So do you know how old the opium bed is?
No, I mean, I don't know how long ago it came to
You
the
can
United
carbon
States.
test opium.
Well, I haven't done that yet. I don't know.
Did it
how-
come over on the elephants?
It came
tiller?
over with the Weeses. I don't know whether it came. I don't know if it came on an airplane or
And opium.
Maybe an elephant
It has little doors up at the top that you open and.
to keep your opium in.
I thought it was
Absolutely.
I think it's what you keep your opium in. I don't know for sure.
Or it could be your thong underwear drawer.
It could be.
Or it could just be all your little. I was thinking of all your little totems and tiny
Yeah.
animals and
There you
things.
go, your
little totem
totems.
drawer.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Gosh, well, I'm going to go see the opium bed. But no, first, speaking of opium, let's talk about our Mystic Opus corner. What kind of opi are we calling out today? Gail, what do you think?
Well, my book this week that I read is called The Liar's Dictionary by Ellie Williams. It's a book for word nerds. So if you're not into, words, forget it. But it's not the kind of, a lot of word nerds want a book in their hands, so they hate Kindles, for example. But I got this book out of the library, and into about chapter 2, I took it right back and came home and bought it on Kindle. Because on Kindle, you can touch the word, and it'll either give you the definition, and it'll even pronounce it for you, which I like, or Wikipedia, drops into the scene and tells you what the word means. And if you're going to read Liar's Dictionary, I highly recommend you read it on Kindle. It's a good book, but you better be a word nerd.
I'm going to venture that that all of our fans out there in listening world are word nerds.
Absolutely.
Okay, that sounds good. I wrote it
Well,
down.
y'all, oh, you did?
Yeah, see,
Good for you.
I wrote it down right here.
All right. The Liar's Dictionary.
So I'm reading a really good book too by Janice Ray, and it's her newest book, Wild Spectacle. I highly recommend just picking up any of her books, but this one is spectacular. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. 16 essays. It's big, beautiful natural spectacles, and then tiny, tiny, beautiful things. And I was walking recently, and I kind of just looked around. I was in the middle of a bunch of trees, and I thought, the only thing I trust is nature. Even if it gives me the dadgum virus, the only thing I trust is nature.
Or allergies.
Yeah. And that's kind of what the whole book brings you back to that idea.
Say the name of the book again.
Wild Spectacle. It's her newest one. So if you haven't, you might want to follow her on her
And her most
Facebook
famous
author
book
feed.
is...
Ecology of Cracker Childhood. And I just lent that to my stepfather, who's probably the smartest person I know. And he called me about halfway through it and said, I have not read anything this good in a long time.
Oh, good.
He promptly called Auburn Oil Company booksellers and ordered him some Christmas presents. So shout out, Janice. It's gorgeous. Just gorgeous. And let's see, I'll pass the Opus Corner on to Marky.
Okay. Well, I think I mentioned this last time, but since it wasn't recorded, I think I can say it again. I just finished State of Terror by Hillary Clinton and Louise Penny.
What a couple.
It was quite good, and it's interesting if you've read Louise Penny. She kind of works her inspector into this drama.
Ganache.
Yes, and as well as Three Pines in Quebec.
When I went to Quebec City, Quebec, I may have told y'all this. My tour guide lives in a forest near Louise Penny.
Ooh.
Yeah, she lives in a village like she writes about, although it is fictional. But it was a little too close to reality. It was fiction. But it's interesting. They met through a best friend that Hillary had since childhood, who was also a friend of Louise Penny. And if you hear Hillary interviewed or Louise, the book is, dramatic and, all about terror in the world, but it's also about friendship between women, a very good friendship between two women. And I'm reading now, just started, Cloud Cuckoo Land.
Yeah, that's supposed to be, I haven't read it, but
It's really, I just started
book.
it. It's pretty fabulous, but just beginning. It's very dense and going to be great. The same person, Anthony Doerr, who wrote All the Light We Cannot See.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought was fabulous.
Women who are friends, such as the Mystics, I went into the Auburn Library to pick up another book, and our book, Mastering the Art of Winch Cooking, is on display in the Auburn Library. And
Yay.
I was shocked, and I said to the librarian, I helped write that book, and she goes, "Oh, I love the Golden Girls."
Not only are we golden, we are diamond.
I'm so
I was trying to think.
confused.
I walked out with the puzzle. Why did she tell me she liked the Golden Girls?
I think because we're can girls, maybe she was confusing that to golden.
think
Or
she
either I
knows
was
the
hoping it wasn't
Mystics.
because we were old and silly.
Well, I was going to say the Mystics.
Marion's breaking the rules by talking without a microphone. Hang on.
I think it's because we remind her of the sitcom.
I hope not.
I hope not.
I've never seen an episode of Golden Girls.
What?
What else? What else do we care to stamp?
Oh, we must be to the Mystic stamp.
Yeah,
of
we're going to
excellence.
stamp. We're going to give our stamps of excellence. Let's see, Joanne. What are you stamping?
I am stamping the Simon and Garfunkel story. It was presented at the East Alabama Performance Art. It was part of their series. It was just absolutely a hoot of a night. First off, the guy that played Art Garfunkel, I thought it was Art Garfunkel. He looked so much like him. And then the guy who played Paul Simon did not look so much like Paul Simon, but he sang just like him and played the guitar the whole night long. And of course, I told everybody sitting by me, get ready to be embarrassed because I'm going to be singing these songs all night long.
Oh, for shame.
But it was very well done. And Opelika has the performance series that's going on now. And I will say some of the ones I just adore. Some of the ones is, okay. But the Simon and Garfunkel story, I adored.
Do you know where the troupe, or what do they call an acting troupe? Is it a troupe?
It is a troupe.
Do you know where they were from?
And most of these places are really out of New York.
Mm-hmm.
But they're smaller groups that travel around places, little small towns like Opelika, Columbus, Georgia, and make the thing. And they were just so delightful because they were it's the first one of the performance series that I have gone to that people really did attend. At COVID, they kind of stepped back, and we had masks on. And of course, that was good because I was singing along and nobody could see that I was singing along.
Right.
It was very, like I said, they're very well done and they were so
But you're a
appreciative.
classically trained singer, right?
Yeah, as if. Sister Claire Marie classically trained me. But the two guys who played bass, both of them were Asian. They were having a better time than anybody else on stage.
Well, that makes it fun.
Art
fun.
Garfunkel just turned 80.
Oh my gosh. No, don't tell me that.
Marion, what are you stamping today?
I saw a wonderful film on Hulu called That Summer. And it is about the summer of 1972 when Peter Beard and Lee Radziwill went to visit the Beals.
Oh.
And this is before the two Grey Gardens documentaries were made. Peter Beard made this documentary and it was shelved for 40 years. So it was pulled out recently and it's been released and it was absolutely wonderful. The first is 4 reels. The first reel is a lot of background information about Peter Beard's work and it shows Truman Capote there, not with the Beals, but
Will you say the name one more time?
That Summer.
Okay.
And a whole lot of other interesting people gathered there. And then starting in the second reel, they're actually at the Beals' house in Grey Gardens.
Wow.
And it's just a beautiful, I've watched it more than once. And even though it's still on Hulu, I bought my own copy because it's something I know I have to watch over and over and over.
So when you say reel, is that like an episode?
Yeah. It's like 4 film reels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just never.
And it breaks
Used
it up
that
that way. It'll
word.
say reel
A
1,
reel. Oh, cool.
reel 2, reel 3.
Well, that sounds good. If there's anybody out there that hadn't seen the Grey Gardens documentaries, I'd suggest watching them. But I don't know, should they be seen before this or after?
Well,
or?
I saw this after I saw them, even though this was made before they were. They're all fantastic. They're wonderful. They give me a reason to
live.
Yeah. So these are eccentric mother-daughter living in a house that sort
that's
of felt
Grey Gardens.
dilapidated
and this
around
is them too.
Oh, it's
this is Peter Beard visiting them. This isn't Grey Gardens. There's Grey Gardens, the documentary, Return to Grey Gardens, the documentary. But before those were made, this was made back in 1972 and never seen.
Oh, and it's the same two ladies.
It's the same two ladies.
Kennedy cousins.
But it's not the Maleses that made this. It's Peter Beard, who was, I think, going with Lee Radziwill at the time.
Well, I want to see that.
And my friend, shout out to Dr. Stuart Knoll. He's a good friend of Lee Radziwill and her daughter, and he actually went to her funeral. He's a professor at Georgia State University, English. He was a very good friend of theirs.
He's also a Capote scholar, right?
Well, my stamp of excellence is a repeat due to the unfortunate loss of the November podcast. And I don't know who was at the wheel that day. Whoever it was watched 45 minutes go by
Mary
with
wasn't
nothing.
Here. I was here, but I wasn't at the wheel.
We don't cast
Katie?
blame
No,
on
doesn't.
technical snafus. There is clearly a demon god of technology that will come descend upon us at any time. So it can happen to anyone.
It happens daily here.
Yeah.
This is a repeat performance, but my stamp of excellence is for a good Samaritan named Mr. Andy Jones, who stopped and fixed my tire. AAA had said it'd be 2.5 hours, and he said I would fix it. Little did I know that it takes a PhD in tire changing nowadays and YouTube. I mean, he was on YouTube the whole time changing my tire.
Oh, my gosh.
He started out very clean and decent looking, professional. And when he got through, I was thinking his wife is going to kill me because his clothes are dirty. So I started thinking about this, and I thought, I'm going to thrill him. I'm going to send him a very interesting amount of money order for his favorite restaurant. And I couldn't remember what he said his favorite restaurant was, so I sent my favorite restaurant. And I thought, I got a lot of laughs out of thinking about him getting this from this stranger whose tire he changed. But anyway, the next week I came home from Tai Chi, and my husband's waiting at the door, which is pretty unusual. He goes, you got flowers.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought somebody died and sent me the flowers. No, it was from my good Samaritan thanking me for the lovely gift certificate.
Well, there are not people like that anymore.
I know.
How wonderful.
And his name is Jones. So he's going to be getting, anybody listening to this probably knows an Andy Jones, and they'll think he did it. But no, it was my Andy Jones.
Well, and go and be kind to each other is what the moral of that stamp of excellence is.
But
well,
now
I can't change anyone's tire because I've seen it done now, and the tires are up under the car now.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
some
And you
don't
have
even
to-
have them.
And you have to let it down on a chain. And you have to know the secret word, the password, etc., to get it down.
Oh, my God.
And that's just the beginning.
So do you send a thank you note now and a gift certificate thanking him for the flowers? This could just go on
yes,
and on.
I was thinking that, but no.
This could be like a reel.
I did send him a little text, I think, on Facebook or something saying that I was thrilled. And I didn't add that my husband hasn't sent me flowers since the last time I said, I haven't gotten flowers from you in 10 years. And I think that was 10 years ago I said that. So,
Your husband probably thinks this makes up for the...
yeah, he's counting
Thanks, Andy.
He's counting Andy's flowers as his.
He's
Yeah.
good for another 10 years.
Yeah,
But your husband's baked you a lot of bread.
really. Oh, okay.
He's baked us a lot of bread.
Yeah, we take it to funerals and mystic meetings.
What are you stamping excellence? Oh, wait a minute. We
I
started
did
with your stamp
mine.
of
That's
excellence.
right.
So we're around to me, and I'm not going to cast a pall on this podcast, I promise. But my mother did die last month, and my stamp of excellence is to the Mystics.
Thank you.
Because, everybody always says, what can I do? And I was like, you know what y'all can do? And I gave them a task. And I said, please bring food so I don't have to worry about any of that. And oh, my goodness, it was not just that the food was good and that my friends were there, but just not having to worry, to have friends that you know if you ask them to do something,
us.
they do it.
And I think
Yay, us.
we're so glad to do it for you,
Yeah.
And
Mary.
thank you so much. And I'm also going to stamp out or whatever. Wait, I'm not going to stamp them out. I'm going to shout out and stamp just some of my other
Stamp
old
out
friends
drugs. Do you
who
remember that?
I do. I do. But my other friends for the same thing, you know, it was like I just needed somebody to go back over to my stepfather's house and be there while we weren't there. And I'm telling you, you folks out there in the world, if you don't have a pack of friends that are capable and competent, get you some. You can't have mine. It's a wonderful thing when you know you need something done and somebody can just do it and you don't have to worry about it. It's a great thing. So let's see. Anybody done any traveling that they want to share with us on our Mystic C, which is
have.
SEA and SEE? What did you see at the sea, Margie?
We went at Thanksgiving to Hendersonville, Tennessee to see my husband's cousin Diane, who does the most fabulous Thanksgiving. They do 3 turkeys, one deep fried, one smoked, one regular, plus every kind of side you can imagine, from wonderful cornbread dressing to green beans to mashed potatoes, everything you can imagine.
I
Plus,
think you've gone over into the Mystic Bites, Margie.
yes. But the trip was the journey. We got to see my grandson.
Yay.
Song Ben Song from Ohio. So my son drove down from Ohio, and my husband and I, and then Forrest and Song, we stayed at a Marriott near Diane's. And so we had a really good time, and Song got to swim in the Marriott pool before we went to
fun.
Thanksgiving. It was great. And Song has had his first vaccination. He hasn't had time to get his second
How old
one.
is Song?
He's 8. He just turned 8. And he should have his second one like this week, I think. So
Yay.
that's good.
Everybody should be happy to get it.
I lost my place. Let's see.
That was the
We are at the
CC.
Mystic
Margie.
Sea.
Excuse me, Joanne, where
yeah.
have you been?
I'm not even an M.
I
mean, It's
know.
Margie, Mary, and Mary, but I'm not even an M.
Mercy.
I went to adult camp for
A camp at camp.
a camp at camp, and I brought the other camp, Mr. Camp, with me. We got into the RV and went down to the Salon Dixon Forestry Education Preserve, 700 acres south of Andalusia.
Was
And-
this a salon where you could get a facial and
No, not Solon, Solon. Solon Dixon is a man whose family owned this property down in South Alabama, and he donated it to Auburn University, and in particular for the forestry students to go down there and study. But we played forestry students, and we played every kind of, I guess, student. We got to see gopher tortoises, and I have a lovely picture of me with a king snake hugging me.
Yes, it loved you.
It loves me. We went on forest walks. We went on hikes. We learned about the floral diversity of South Alabama. We learned just a lot. And so we were in the RV, but other people stayed in the dorm. It was just a delightful time.
I saw some pictures on Facebook, and you might have been in them. People were doing things like not just hugging trees and pressing their backs and fronts up against them, but lying down and putting their legs up flat on the trees.
Is that called forest bathing?
exactly the forest
were they
bathers?
clothed? Were they clothed?
No, they were naked as jaybirds.
Really?
Shh, Mary, you're not supposed to tell everything you know.
No, they had their clothes on. When
It
you
was-
forest bathe, you wear your clothes.
I was going to say, do not worry, Gail. It was too cold to go naked as jaybirds. But it
Well,
was
I just wanted
lovely.
to keep the standard of the Mystic Pack.
But I went on a hike. It was called Art in Nature. They were little things that you should do, and a couple of them were to hug a tree. And I hugged one tree, and I thought, it feels just like Jimmy Camp when he's shaved his
Yeah.
beard and is starting to grow it back.
So
And
that was through Ollie, right?
It was through Ollie, yes. And it was just, like I said, absolutely delightful.
So we have a tree hugger among us.
Oh, yeah, forever. What if?
That did look like fun. I wish I had gone. Of course, I'm not an Ollie member, so I would have
you
to
know
tag
what?
along with somebody.
Jimmy Camp is not either, and they were planning on another trip in spring. I will let all the mystics
Good.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go. So speaking of Andalusia, I think that's a beautiful word, Andalusia. And one time I was at a conference or something, and I said to a group of women, I said, that word is so beautiful, Andalusia. Oh, no, it's because she said she was from Andalusia. And I said, oh, you're from Andalusia? That's such a beautiful word. And she looked at me, she goes, you ain't been to Andalusia, have you? I try to forget that one. I remember what a beautiful word that is.
Andalusia means gargling sweet water.
It does for real?
No.
There's a place in Spain, that has the most beautiful horses in the world.
And if Gail is our liar's dictionary.
And that was what author? The one that we always get one from Milledgeville and one from Flannery O'Connor's home was Andalusia.
Andalusia?
That she named her
Have
home.
we been there?
we
read there?
We thought we were going there, but we were
We need to
wrong.
write down everywhere we've been so we can remember in the next couple of years.
Andalusia has peacocks.
I have a scrapbook, a mystic scrapbook. We'll have to videotape going through the scrapbook. Y'all can come with us.
I have a scrapbook too. Maybe I should give it to you as our historian.
You've been giving me things along the way for my scrapbook. I wonder what's in your scrapbook.
God, it's huge. It takes up an entire drawer.
Yeah, we should definitely marry them.
Yeah.
Marry them, not marry them. Like,
Miriam.
okay.
Like
Well,
our
I have
Miriam.
totally lost my place.
We're to
Let's
the
see.
Mystic Bites.
Let's talk about food.
All right.
And this was Thanksgiving, so I'm sure everybody has, that on their minds. But Gail, do you have some specific mystic bites to share?
And I want to preface this by saying that I may have mentioned this. Well, I probably mentioned it in the November podcast, which did not happen.
It happened.
I am trying
it
to
just
simplify
mystically disappeared.
I'm trying to simplify my life after COVID because my calendars before COVID looked like the Rosetta Stone, and my calendars during COVID only had doctor's appointments on them, which I wouldn't go to because they're in COVID
Because of
zones.
COVID.
And so I wanted something in between. So I'm simplifying my life, especially in our cooking. We used to spend all day cooking for company, sometimes 2 and 3 days. But now I'm finding the simplest thing. And tonight for dessert, we're having wind willow, key lime. You can make a cheesecake, but I made a cheese ball, and it's served with graham crackers. And it's absolutely fabulous. And why I ever made a cheesecake is beyond me when I could just pour this into 1 cream cheese, 8 ounces, and 4 tablespoons of butter. That's a lot of butter.
So this is a
girls.
mix.
And you pour
the
this
key lime
mix
pie
in.
mix. Yum.
And it is fabulous, as you will find out at dessert tonight. And it's called, I'm going to take a picture of this for our
Wind
Facebook
and
Facebook.
Willow.
It's called Wind and Willow Key Lime Pie.
Unless, dear listeners, you think that we are just all this gourmand, the best dessert that Gail has brought in recent time was donuts.
Yeah, yes, that's my new plan. The easier, the better.
And we all just swooned over them.
That's my old plan.
You mean to stay simple your
The
life?
easier, the better. Simplify, simplify, simplify.
Yeah.
Y'all should see some of my recipes, like candy in a dish. And I made that decision to bring those brownies.
Yeah.
Y'all are talking Mary talk now.
That's right.
Okay, so Marion, tell us about your bites.
I don't like Thanksgiving. I don't like bird. I don't like to eat bird. I mean, I love birds. I don't like to eat bird. I don't like all those mayonnaise casseroles. I really don't. My Thanksgiving fare that I love is Gail Langley's PhD cranberry salad.
Oh,
That is what I absolutely love at Thanksgiving. But so I don't have any Thanksgiving.
That's actually my cousin Lucy's, who's snottier than I am.
Well, it's mighty good. And
This recipe, the reason I invited Marion over to help me make it was I said, this is so hard it requires a PhD, and she had one.
Yeah.
And the two of us together, how long did it take us to make
it
that?
took us much of the day, but we enjoyed it.
Is it in one of our books?
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't think it is. Yeah, I think it is. It's in our first book,
I think
The Ploy
it's in
of
the Ploy
Cooking.
of Cooking.
Yes.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think what stumped us was the flavored gelatin. And I had to call down to Mobile, Alabama to say to my cousin Lucy, we're to step 27. Flavored gelatin. And I said, I've been all up and down the aisles of this store and I cannot find any flavored gelatin. And she goes, it's Jell-O.
Jell-O.
It's Jell-O.
But not in that recipe. It's not Jell-O.
It's flavored gelatin.
gelatin.
That's the PhD element.
But what I have been enjoying bite-wise is I have just been really hungry for broth. So I've been making my own pho out of vegetable broth and grated ginger and lemon juice and cellophane noodles, and I've been making chai out of all kind of warm and spices. So those have been my
love
bites for
chais.
this cold snap.
Nice. Well, I wasn't down for bites, but I'm going to quickly throw in that I may end up writing a story about the soup that my husband Joe and Tippy Joe and I made the other day with our leftovers. It started
this a
off a
threesome?
small.
Is
It's
this
a threesome when you talk about the soup. It started off just a normal little pot of leftover turkey soup or whatever, and you know how, like, if you cut your hair and you get it wrong and then you cut the other side and then you got it wrong and then you got to go back and cut the other side? Well, this soup was like that, only the opposite. We'd add too much of one thing, so we'd have to add more of one thing. And this pot of soup is now about the size of this kitchen table, and it's good. Oh, it's so good. But it just grew.
Why didn't you bring it tonight?
And grew.
Oh,
I could have, but I wanted to make something else
Oh, I
with
see.
no mayonnaise. We
Well,
didn't
I
have
do
any
have
mayonnaise.
something to say about that recipe. I have never in my life cut my own hair. I go to a stylist.
You didn't even cut it when you were little.
Well, I
All right,
cut
Miss
other people's.
PhD.
I was famous for cutting my friend's hair down to the scalp, but I certainly wouldn't do that to myself.
Well,
Stone soup. It sounds like stone soup.
it did. It reminded me of
Mary.
stone soup. We'd walk by and say, I think it needs a little this and that. And we'd open the fridge and throw it in. We're going to talk
We're-
about holidays. That's our topic for the
I think it's
Day.
one specific holiday, isn't it?
well, Christmas is coming. And it can be about Christmas, but I mean, you know, if anybody else
I
is
am
in some
talking
kind of other
about
holiday
Christmas.
spirit. Okay, well, let's chat about Christmas. What's going on?
All right. Well, and I'm briefly going to say about my Christmas in the olden days, you know, the horse and buggy days when I had parents. When we'd get up Christmas morning, there was always a sooty boot print on our hearth.
Nice.
Oh,
That was good. We always got our tree from the woods.
Mhm.
Always. We didn't have tree farms back then, or if we did, we were unaware of them. And we won the Auburn Christmas decoration. Our home won the Auburn Christmas decoration. And when I think of this now, it's humorous because down the street they've hired Glow Christmas or something.
Yeah.
And a truck pulls up, and by the time they get through, it looks like something out of Disney World.
Yeah.
Well, we won it because my mother took a piece of oilcloth and painted Santa on it and tacked it to our front door. And we won.
We won.
And then I guess they drive around in their WJHO truck. Did y'all ever see that? Are you too young?
I remember WJHO. I don't remember their truck.
Oh, they have a truck with a microphone and they drive around and tell you stuff. You know, like, oh, and here's another Christmas door with a Santa on it. So we won.
My childhood Christmas was, my parents thought it was tacky to have outdoor lights, so I put them up now. I don't know why, but we had pretty traditional childhood Christmases. Daddy would call everybody on Christmas Day, all my friends, and say, "Ho ho ho! This is Santa Claus.
That's not normal.
How did you like whatever?" I would know. I would know what the gifts were.
This is so sad that you think that's normal.
Yeah, and the possums were running around in the house. You know, we'd always decorate. You know, the snakes with little Christmas hats. It's
gonna
pretty
say.
normal.
and the pillowcase is all writhing.
Yeah, the rattling in the corners. Yeah. Pretty traditional Christmases. We did go to. We didn't grow up in
REP.
church.
This is not a traditional Christmas.
we didn't grow up in the church, except Mom and Daddy would drop Robert and me off at Sunday school, and then they would just leave. Like, we never set foot in the sanctuary.
Now, those are people after my own heart.
Yeah, and I think they just were sick of us. And so, but on Christmas Eve, my mama and I would go to the Lutheran church. I don't know why that one, but to their candlelight service and
Oh,
be there at
nice.
midnight. And that was a lovely memory of mine.
Oh, let's do that this year.
Let's.
I would
I
like
won't
to
be
go
here.
to a church that sang real carols that I recognize. I've been to several looking for this, and it hasn't happened yet.
There's a big one on North College, not too far from here, that does that.
But it's Catholic.
Are you talking about the National Methodist?
No.
She's talking about her church, her Catholic
I'm
church.
talking about the Catholic
Y'all
Church.
sing real carols.
We sing real carols.
But are they Catholic carols?
Oh, come all you faithful, silent night. Is that the one you're looking for?
Yes.
It came upon a midnight clear.
Do I have to take
No.
confession?
You're
No,
not allowed
you do
to.
Yes, you
That's
are.
good
That's what the
because
one sacrament
I wouldn't get out of
everybody's
that
allowed
booth
to
till
take.
New Year's Eve.
So yes, you could, but it's not. It's not. In fact, it's probably going to be packed.
I'd like to have a confessional booth in my house. I think it'd be fun.
There was This is a non sequitur.
And then I would like to sit there and listen to your confession.
There is a bar in Blue Ridge, Georgia, that is run by a retired priest, and he's Irish. So I don't know where he was. I see some pictures on the wall that he may have been a police officer at one time. He has got obviously some ailment. He always scoots around on one of those little rolling things you put your knee on and roll
those look
around
like
with the other
fun.
foot. So, but he has an old-timey confessional in the back of the bar. And I
Wow.
thought, what a perfect place for a confessional.
First of all, I plan to get drunk tonight.
That's right.
Let me start with this.
And how many people have confessed when they're drunk anyway?
How were your traditional Christmases growing up, Joanne?
Going up, as people have heard, there were 13 children in my family. We had very simple Christmases, but wonderful Christmases. We, instead of stockings, we put up real socks. We put up our socks. And so if you were
This is
like,
sad.
it is. You would-
Get an orange in one.
I was going to say, no, we didn't get fruit.
Tangerine, maybe, or clementine.
We got.
And the youngest child, what could they get? A Brazil nut?
Well, and the younger child, because their sock would be about 3 inches long, would go and get one of my father's socks, and we would pin them up on. We didn't have a fireplace, so we would pin them up on the stair going up. And of course, mine was always up tall, believe it or not, because I was the tallest. And then we never put the tree up until December 15th, which was my sister Carol's birthday. And so Carol thought, in fact, she is named Carol because Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And we always made, we didn't have fancy decorations. I'm sure at one point, knowing my mother, she probably had some very nice decorations, but about 3 years into us raucous children, they were probably all destroyed. So we all made our own. We strung popcorn or made construction chains, construction paper
Cranberries.
chains.
Yep.
Well, no cranberries. We ate those.
Popcorn.
Popcorn, yeah, because, you could pop popcorn forever. And then, our school artwork and things like that. And we always had the fat colored light, not the little tinky twinkling ones, the big ones. And they were always different colors. Every child got one gift. But by the time it looked like Santa Claus had dumped his sleigh. By the time everybody got one gift. And we always had one family gift, which was a game. In
Yeah,
fact,
we always got a game too. Good old Santa.
yeah.
I'm
He's
close
still
to
bringing
tears.
a game.
I
Every
like
year,
Santa
Santa
doing
brings
that.
a game.
I think
to
I'm
our
very
family.
close to tears.
It was a lot of fun.
That's like the year I met Bob. There was a rogue dog that would come and deposit in my backyard, and I needed a shovel. And so I just started dating Bob, and I said, I would like a shovel for Christmas. Also, my best friend at the time, who was Catholic, gave me prayers for eternity. Well, I went to get my hair done the next week, and my hairdresser said, what'd you get for Christmas? And I said, I got a shovel and prayers for eternity. And she goes, you're spending Christmas with us next year.
I could just, I'm sorry, honey. Can I
It sounded like you were dating or living with or married to a mass murderer, actually. Was there any rope or lie with that shovel in that book?
It's this Bob.
Right. Yeah, he's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
What would you do, Margie, as a child?
Oh, okay. Well, we always cut down our own Christmas trees too, and we just went out Peachtree Road, which was, I lived in Atlanta, and in Brookhaven there were all these trees, and we could never find one, so we'd cut down several and then rope them together and put them in a concrete bucket. And
Isn't that illegal to cut down
That's
trees on
interesting.
Peachtree?
well, Peachtree was country back when I grew up, so it was like, it wasn't like it is now. It was just a traditional kind of Christmas. We had those hot lights too, those big
Yep.
fat lights, and it was very fun. My dad always loved to give us the best thing he could think up for Christmas. Just one big good thing. But a tradition that we developed later as we were grown is that my mother said, I can't stand turkey, I can't stand ham, I got to have something else. And so my dad said, let's all have lobster. And so he would have
great
lobster.
Christmas
These were our napkins.
Nice.
Our
Those are nice Christmas napkins.
feast.
Take a picture.
So
Marky.
he would have lobster flown in from Maine.
Oh,
And he would
Wow.
have a big pot boiling, and after we opened our gifts, he'd boil lobster, and we'd all sit at the table and eat our lobsters.
Wow.
So, I mean, we were kind of a cruel meat family, but it was fun.
Y'all were fancy. The idea of having something flown in from Maine.
I wish I was with you and not the Alexander 13. They had crumbs and a gingerbread cookie
We
each.
always ate well. My father was a wonderful cook. He's who taught me. He would travel. He was a salesman for a while, and he would get to go to all these really nice restaurants. And when he would come home, if he couldn't figure out what he was eating, he would go back and talk to the chef. And so he would cook that for when we came home. And I love the story. We had all sorts of chicken because chicken was cheap. So we had every kind of chicken. And one day my brother came home and said, "Dad, I've got this wonderful way to cook chicken." He goes, "You take it, you cut it up, you put it in flour, you put it in like egg and butter, then you put it in flour again and you deep fry it. It's wonderful." We had never had fried chicken.
Wow.
We
always had chicken a la king. Now, what is it? What is that?
we had
I think it's
Something in a
against-
Dr. Seuss book.
I think it's against the law to make chicken a la king now.
I don't know what it is either. Marion, what did y'all do?
It has
What was your traditional
tomatoes
Christmases?
and bell peppers in it, doesn't it? And served on rice.
I have forgotten
just-
because God lets us. It's like the pain of childbirth. I've forgotten chicken a la king.
Well, I have been asked to tell my family's traditions, and several things are going on in my brain at once. One is we always cut our own tree, and there was always a cussing fit because it wouldn't be straight, and we'd start cutting off the lower limbs, and then it would have a hole in it. And then it wouldn't stand up in the stand. And many times we tied it to the doorknob of the front door with a rope.
So nobody could come visit.
Nobody could come visit through the front door during Christmas. But that was always, that is my childhood trauma. Cutting down the tree and getting it put up because it was always so
Fighting and
there was
snapping
always snapping and fighting. And my mother doesn't get her feelings hurt at all. Nothing hurt. She'll just say, I'd be crying and she'd say, "Let it roll off of your back." She'd say, "Who's the fool here?" And she'd just keep going until she got her way. And I wish I could have learned to do that. But we couldn't have blinking lights because nice people didn't have blinking lights.
I agree.
no.
Yeah.
And
Only foreigners.
there were lots of rules.
Foreigners from like Pennsylvania.
There were lots of rules like that. That I learned very early on at Christmas time what was tacky. But one of my favorite Christmas stories is we were sitting in the drive around it in Eufaula, which was no longer named the drive around it. It hadn't been named the drive around it since 19.
How do you spell dry round it?
DRIVE.
Drive around
Drive
it.
round it. It was at this point in time called the Chihuahua restaurant in Eufaula. And we were sitting there during the Christmas holidays eating supper. My parents still called it the drive round it because that's what it had been in 1939. We look out and there's a car going
The wrong way?
the wrong way. We're looking out at Highway 431, and there's a car coming the wrong way down 431, and Mama starts, "Look at that fool. Look at that fool. The police ought to catch him and put him under the jail. They ought not to let him out." She was just going. Well, it turned out to be my grandmother.
Her mother or your...
Her mother. My
That's
grandmother
perfect.
was in her 80s at the time, and she was taking the old people around town to see the Christmas decorations.
Who are the old people when you're 80?
I guess the ones in their 90s.
Oh, I love it.
And so the police got her, and she told him, "I'm just taking the old people out to see the lights." And the very sweet policeman said, "Well, I'm driving you home, ma'am." And she said, "Well, I don't know why. I'm fine. I can drive." And so she finally convinced them. I think a car got in front of her and a car got behind her. And they
Police
escort
cars.
drove her home.
Well, that was kind.
I love it.
But I love that story because
Marianne, best Christmas story ever.
That's a good one.
Mama was just ready to put that fool under the jail.
Well, have we got some new traditions to share, Gail?
I do. I want to talk about 2 letters to Santa that the Mystic Prince left when he was a child. The first one, he was about 7. When he was 7, mind you, I was 47, and he left a note, "Dear Santa, for Christmas I want either a little brother or world peace." And so we started praying for world peace. At Christmas dinner, we said, we hope we get world peace because it's not going to be a little brother. That was the first one. The second one's not as funny, but when he was almost in junior high school, I mean, he's 6th grade or something, or maybe 5th grade, I was sitting on the sofa and I don't know, I reached down between the pillows and there was a note and it said, "Dear Santa, if you really are real, you will find this note. And if you do, I want something for Christmas." He says, "Now, my friends in Mrs. Worth's class say you aren't real, but if you can find this note in the sofa, I know you are." We had a neighbor write on there, "Please tell Ms. Worth and all the children in your class that Santa has found your note. Not sure about the present. Love, Santa."
Poor kid.
Didn't get a little brother.
Oh, for shame.
Yeah.
I don't even have traditional Christmases because every single Christmas of my adult life has been just completely different from any of them. But for a while, we would always take vacations because my stepmother's parents thought the only way they could get their kids together as adults was to pay for these Caribbean vacations.
Ooh.
So
on a cruise boat?
no, well, I never went on a cruise boat, and nor will I ever go on a cruise boat.
Good choice.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not interested in that. But no, the first one was to the Bahamas. It wasn't even an all-inclusive back then. It was lots of fun. There was a big power outage on Christmas Day, and we cracked coconuts and drank coconut milk and ate peanut brittle because we couldn't cook. It was so much fun. And later, there were a lot of all-inclusives. We went to so many different places. I'm not going to sit
Does
here and
Santa
name
come
them.
to the Caribbean?
Oh, absolutely. And it was a little bit complicated because of having children. But anyway, we managed. But the funniest, in retrospect, Christmas was we were going to the Dominican Republic, and we were traveling on on Christmas Eve, which was not a good idea. And so there were 10 of us in our party. So my crew flew from Atlanta to Charlotte, and we met some people in Charlotte that were going to fly then from Charlotte straight over to the Dominican Republic. And all of the people that work on airplanes, they all went on strike because it was Christmas Eve. So there was no way we were getting out of Charlotte. No way. We had to spend the night in the airport and bribe people to figure out how to get over to that island to take our vacation. We eventually figured out a way we could fly to New York City and get a flight there. And so we did. And we get to New York City and it's Christmas and it's snowing and we're all dressed for the Caribbean. And we had to go spend the night in a hotel that was next to the airport, you know, those skeevy things. So we're sitting in our airport motel watching television going, this is such a strange Christmas. Maybe we can get a taxi and go find some food. And my dad and one of my uncles went out and came back with Vienna sausages and crackers.
That's worse than the Alexanders.
And we had this big bag of candy that we were bringing because the kids in the DR like candy, and we had all these things to leave there. And so we ate that along with our Vienna sausages and just lay in the bed.
So the kids got nothing.
No, they got a little bit of candy. We'd just lay in the bed eating sausages, throwing candy wrappers around the hotel room. And we finally got to the Dominican Republic, but not without one incident, which I have to tell. We left New York City that night. Everybody was snonkered. Every single person getting on that plane, because everybody had been, in the same situation we were in. And so we get on this airplane. Our party is all separated, and I'm on the airplane at this time with 3 little girls. We're sitting way in the back, and these very drunk boys began to flirt ridiculously with my girls. I'm a middle school teacher. I'm saying I don't speak Spanish, but I'm like, y'all need to stop. You need to stop. You need to settle down because you don't want to cause a ruckus on an airplane. This was after 9/11. Well, they got louder and louder and louder, and all of a sudden, here comes the pilot. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to land this airplane at Dulles because there are these rowdy, uncontrollable passengers. And they pulled the boys to different seats. So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. We looked out the window, and there were fighter jets on either side of our airplane.
For flirting?
Holy shit!
For unruly and drunk. And, you know, my heart was just pounding. And all of a sudden, I see my husband way in the front of the airplane stand up and look. And he comes, it's like, does this have anything to do with my daughters? So that airplane landed, and there was the CNN news truck, and all these people and these agents got on the airplane, and they stormed over there, and they looked at those boys and said, this isn't a joke. And they pulled the boys off the plane. My heart broke for them. They were just teenagers. And then they came over to me and asked if I wanted to press charges. It's like, no. Those poor boys. I just want to get to our vacation. Just get there. And we did.
Sounds like the Christmas from hell.
It was unbelievable.
You could write.
It was
that.
unbelievable.
You could write that in a screenplay.
That's when I want to be the one that's home alone.
And it was, you know, by the time we got there, it was nice. But the Dominican Republic is, you know, we wanted our money to go to them, the Dominicans. They're poor. And nope, that wasn't going to happen. The resort was owned by Spaniards, and we had to hire somebody to get us away from their property. Like, they're like, we'll take you on a tour, but it would be a tour to properties that they owned. So we eventually got into the city and gave that candy to those kids.
What was left?
What was left?
My more recent traditions are breakfast burritos. I have boys, and you know, nobody wanted to sit at a breakfast table on Christmas morning, and so I'm thinking, okay, what can I give them that would be nutritious and that they would carry with them while they're playing with their toys? And it was breakfast burritos. You just take egg and sausage and condiments and wrap it up in a yeah, that's right. And so that became Christmas. And to the extent that Jeremy in Austria every Christmas morning has breakfast burritos.
Oh, I love it.
He's going to need that with those twins.
Exactly. And I'm thinking, you know, how wonderful that was. And the other tradition that we started was midnight mass, good Catholic tradition. As the boys got older.
You didn't start that tradition.
I didn't start that tradition. Started going together.
I think Jesus started midnight
I think he
mass.
did. He didn't start midnight mass. His mass was like sometime in dinner time anyway. But we always get 3 presents. You know, I told you as kids we only got 1 present, but each child gets 3 presents. One something they need, something they want, and then something like a toy. And I still to this day give my boys, and they're adults, a toy.
Oh, yeah.
Of some
I do
sort.
too.
Margie, what are your current traditions? Are y'all still eating lobster?
No, we're not. But we have traveled a good deal. In 2019, we spent our Christmas in Southeast Asia, traveling to, first of all, Thailand, then into Laos, into Vietnam, and then ended up in Cambodia. So we traveled for a month. And I don't know which country we were in at Christmas, but in Southeast Asia, they decorate for Christmas. It's fabulous. So one Christmas we spent on St. John's. So we were in the Caribbean with our daughter-in-law's, her grandfather had a place on St. John's. And I brought my scarf because that was 18 years ago, and you can hardly see it, but I gave these scarves, and it says Maggie's First Christmas. I don't know if you get it because I printed it on it. And that's our 18-year-old granddaughter was with us. She was only 6 months old.
How sweet.
She went down there with us, although we went on a couple of day sail to Joost Van Dyke, and Amber and Maggie didn't go because she was just a little baby on a sailboat. We didn't think that was a good idea. But that was very fun. And if you can kind of see Maggie's First Christmas, I still have the bandana. Those bandanas really last. That's 18 years old. And then, you know, some of the best places to go for Christmas are Germany and Italy.
Oh, yeah.
Austria.
Oh, in Austria. Sorry, Joanne.
Is Germany closed as well?
Yes, I think they're closing down most of the European countries right now.
Excuse me, Margie. Go
That's
ahead.
okay. So now our Christmas, both Wayne's parents and my parents have passed on, and so we just kind of divide it between our children. And usually, you know, if we're in Auburn, we'll have Christmas Day in Auburn and then go visit whoever lives somewhere else. You know, it's fun. I'm kind of relieved sometimes when Christmas is over. Even though
Aren't we all?
I used to absolutely love it. And I guess I'm getting old and grinchy.
Grinchy. Old and grinchy. That, of all the words I've ever used to describe Margie, old and grinchy were not there.
I'm not old and grinchy, but anyway, I'm looking forward to Christmas.
Marion, what are you, old and grinchy?
I don't know. Am I old and grinchy?
Not.
No.
We used to have my grandmother and my parents, well, not on Christmas Day. My parents used to come spend Christmas Eve night at our house and be there on Christmas morning, but they're in their 90s now. So my son and I and the dogs go to their house. We don't do a whole lot. We just spend Christmas with them, and they listen to Christmas music all year round.
Oh, dear.
So
What?
yeah, they like Christmas music.
Now, when you say
all-
Christmas music, are you talking about traditional carols, or are you talking about that stuff that just comes on the radio that's like,
No, they have homemade cassette tapes of their favorite Christmas carols.
And they got something that
Interesting.
can play homemade cassette tapes.
Yeah. but now Daddy, I think he has most of it taken over to his computer, transferred over to his computer, but you have Gene Autry singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed
well, that's
Reindeer.
kind of nice.
Jim
Maybe not all
Reeves
year.
And Margaret Whiting and somebody singing Silver Bells. Mama used to play those on the piano when she was younger, but now we listen to that music all year round.
Well, Gail, take us out with your worst Christmas present ever.
This was the Christmas of 2018. The Mystic Prince was always a hilarious child, and I have many, many photographs to prove that. So occasionally I'd put him on Facebook, and one of his friends, a comedian from Canada, said he would love to have a calendar with Rivers pick these pictures. So I spent days going through our shelves of albums and pictures, and I found the 12 most hilarious pictures ever of my son. And then I matched them to the month. For example, the December one had Rivers with a Christmas wreath on his head. So I took this to the printers and they printed it, and I bought 14 of them at $10 each, and I wrapped them up for the Mystic Prince. Well, when the Mystic Prince got home, we decided that the king, my husband, needed an iPad. Now, my husband is a Luddite. In fact, when his analog phone in a bag died, he refused to get a flip phone for weeks. So finally he got a flip phone, and now he actually has an iPhone, but he mourns that. He wants a flip phone. So the Mystic Prince and I decided that he would really enjoy an iPad once he learned to use it, if he didn't return it the next day. So the Mystic Prince put all his favorite albums on his iPad, and I knew this was going to be a great present. But not when he first saw it. You know, he would go, "Oh my God, I'm returning this tomorrow." I saved these two presents for last, and I finally handed the Mystic Prince his calendar, and he opens it up and looks at it, and he goes, "This is the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my life. If you show this to anybody I know, I'm never coming home for Christmas again."
Shall we post some pictures?
Yes. And he said, "Don't you dare send that to a single friend I have." I was just heartbroken because I thought it was so wonderful.
It's pretty fabulous.
And
Nice.
and so anyway, I was really heartbroken. And then Bob opened his iPad and he took one look at it and he said, "Oh, fabulous. I have wanted something like whatever this is for a very, very long time."
Bless his heart. It's my favorite thingy-majubby. I love it.
He says, "Does it turn on? Because that would be exciting." Because he knew I was heartbroken. And so, of course, we all cracked up because we knew Bob wanted to return it terribly bad.
He
So
probably
that is-
sleeps with it beside him every night
God,
and just
now
loves it.
I look down there and he's got his face in the, the Weather Channel on the iPad. So it worked out. But, and lastly, I'd like to say that this beautiful calendar, which is the 2019 calendar, because it was Christmas of 18, I gave it to him, will be good again in 2030.
Order now.
2041, 2047, which some of us will be 100 on that year. 2069, which I sure hope the calendar is still around for someone to enjoy it, et cetera, et cetera.
We've had a good time. We just could tell you more stories and wish you were here to tell us some.
Right.
So we have mystic moments to conclude. Anybody have some mystic moments to share?
When we went down to Salon Dixon Forestry Education Preserve, two herpetologists, husband and wife, came and brought just wonderful animals like salamanders and gopher tortoises. But the one that loved me back was a king snake. And they were allowing people to hold certain of the animals. But the king snake decided it liked me, and it curled around one arm and it curled around the other. And it just sat there looking at me. And so I walked around with the king snake.
That is very mystic.
And he was, as I told people, they said, "Why does it love you so much?" I said, "Well,
You're cold-blooded like the snake.
close." I said, "I'm an attorney. It's professional courtesy."
My mystic moment would have been when I was sitting at my parents' house over Thanksgiving watching television, and the My Pillow guy came on and said, "Cancel culture is hurting a lot of you, and it's also hurting me and my pillow."
What? What?
My 93-year-old mother said, "I wish he'd shut his mouth."
Awesome. Go.
That was my mystic moment.
Love it.
Marion, tell about the group you've just joined on Facebook.
Oh, I just joined a group on Facebook called People Who Dislike Modern Farmhouse, and it's pretty funny.
Is modern farmhouse like when there's cows?
It can be. It's all of the above.
Distressed antiques
it's
and stuff?
burlap and buffalo
Yeah.
check.
And they all have their
shiplap.
initials on the
gotcha.
front door so they can find their way home.
Yeah.
Lots of initials and lots of signs from Slobby Lobby.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But anyway, the women on it and men are sometimes mean, but they're also very clever.
Well, we're never mean.
They're very clever. Every now and then I kind of cringe because, you don't want to really hurt people's feelings. But they make some of the funniest comments about some of the worst decorating decisions I've ever seen.
So we might all go sneaking over and
Right.
look.
You might go
That's
look.
right. Yeah, that's.
You might
sounds
go
like
look.
it sounds like a guilty pleasure.
Right. It is a guilty pleasure.
Have
and
you
I
got a
try to
moment, Gail?
contain
Oh,
myself.
yes. I've been saving this moment for you girls. I've even got it right here in a little box. When I found it, I've saved it. But 2 weeks ago, I got out my winter clothes, and this is a Herculean task if you're me, because I love clothes. In fact, it took so many bins to get them out from storage that I lent them to Margie for her new business.
Thank you. Thank you,
welcome.
Queen.
But I also got out my winter shoes. And one pair of winter shoes, which reminds me kind of Marion, are these little cloth Mary Janes that probably come from China. And I wear them in winter. And I delighted to take them out, and I stuck my foot right in them, and something pierced the side of my foot. And I thought, oh my goodness. I look in my shoe and there's nothing there. But on the side, inside the lining, is this big lump. And there's no way to get inside the lining because I didn't want to cut the lining of my precious little shoes that I wear in the winter. But I ended up cutting the lining. And here's what was in my shoe. It's a Betsy bug.
It's a big old rhinoceros beetle.
Yeah.
And they live off of rotting wood, which is, I guess my shoes were made of Chinese rotting wood. I don't know. But it couldn't get out, so it died there.
Wow.
And-
That's really quite
And
charming.
I looked up Bessie Bug, and they, of course, everyone's going to say, that's crazy as a Betsy bug. It was born in
cute.
my shoe. It had to have been because it couldn't get
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And it just ate what the lining of the inside of the shoe. And I've donated those shoes to poor people in the Dominican Republic now.
That's kind of making me sad.
What a
looking at this
sad
thing.
life.
I hope there are no Betsy bugs eggs in them.
Well, guys, we're going to have to say goodbye.
Happy Merry Christmas. and
Merry
happy
Christmas
holidays.
and Christmas holidays
Christmas.
and all of that stuff. And y'all remember, be,
Be the flame, not the moth.